Good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, gorgeous. Don't forget to smile. As you look radiant as you are the queen of your Nile, wake up, beautiful. It's time to spread your wings. Open up your window and hear the songbirds as they sing.
Welcome to Good Morning Gorgeous, your Saturday morning dose of inspiration. I am Sharonda Steele, and
I'm yours truly, Larissa Williams.
today we have with us Aurora Massaruto. Aurora. I'm learning the tongue. I'm learning the twist of the tongue.
Excellent.
I'll let her say her name when we get started. But Aurora currently she works with emergency response and logistics for the state of Kentucky. And I
Awesome.
think right now, with the current climate and everything that we are experiencing, I thought it was important for her to come on and just talk a little bit about that. But what's so incredible and special about this woman is this work did not just start with her working for the state. She worked years previous and for a very long time, and I'll let you share that in just a minute, with other organizations and groups that will respond to emergency responses for free. Like this is, she would give her own time, take vacation days, and go and respond and help in all of these different emergency or disaster areas.
Wow.
And I remember having a conversation with her, and I was just so in awe of that because that is definitely not me. And I'm like, I'm just so glad I have her around. Her wisdom is just incredible. So I am excited to invite you here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Wow.
Aurora, which I probably would just say Aurora in a minute, it won't last. I'm learning.
That's
First
good.
off, why don't you just, those that are either watching or listening in, give them a little bit of background about you. Who are you? So that they can better understand as we go into this conversation.
Sure. So Aurora Massaruto.
Aurora.
Aurora is actually my middle name. So I was born with a very long name. So my first name was originally Yesenia Aurora Massaruto. And in 2015, I had a shift, and recently I removed the first name and kept just my middle name and last name. I am a transplant in Kentucky from Miami, Florida. I was born in Dover, Delaware. My mother is Cuban. My father is Italian. My generation, my brothers, my sister and I, we are first generation American. And I've been in Kentucky. I'm going on my 5th year. Actually, no, I just turned 5 years as a Kentucky resident. And so basically, I've traveled a lot, as Sharonda said. I've had opportunities to do what I do now for the state of Kentucky, and I did it in a position that it was pretty much, I did it for free. So I have 2 children. I have 2 boys. One's 24 and one's 20. The oldest lives here in Richmond. My youngest still lives back in Miami. But overall, I love what I do. I've been blessed beyond belief. Sharonda knows my pretty much my story, but I always find that I introduce myself differently every time I do an introduction. I either omit some things or I overtalk. So about 2016, I came across my first non-for-profit organization, which is an NGO, which is a non-governmental organization that responds to disasters. They were founded after the earthquakes of Haiti back in 2010. And so at that time, I was doing my undergrad in fire and emergency management, and I came across this organization at an event. And so I kind of talked to them, what they do. They kind of said, this is the information, feel free to sign up. And I did. Since I was still going through my undergrad, I wasn't really involved with them until Hurricane Harvey in Houston in 2017, which was my first actual deployment with the NGO.
And what I like to say about Aurora is she's one of those that a lot of times we talk about walking the talk. Like that's what I think of when I think of her. Like if I think of anything related to emergency response, I think about her because just having these conversations with her, like it is just ingrained in you, it seemed like, right? I mean, it really truly is just like, it's so important to you, and being able to support and create impact in communities are so important that you can just feel it when we're having conversations about the work that you do. And I think that is just pretty incredible, especially with what's happening around us right now.
Yeah. And my main focus, which I had the opportunity to do with Hurricane Harvey, was logistics. I had the wrong equipment. I had the wrong pair of shoes, believe it or not. And this 4'11" retired military logistics specialist, Vietnam, she's Vietnamese. She was an orphan here in the United States. And she looked at me and she pointed straight at me and she goes, "You," in front of there must have been about 75 people. And she just pointed right at me and she goes, "You. Come here, where are your boots?" And I was like, what? So I thought to myself, what is this woman talking about boots? Like, why would I bring boots? You know? And so when I looked at the packing list that she showed me, I said, well, if you see where it says boots, it's not part of the packing list. It's part of the packing list for the people that are just coming and going. So they had labeled it incorrectly. And so she says, well, you're going to be shadowing me today. And I said, okay, perfect. Well, that was an experience to feed, shelter 75 people, all with different dietary needs, having to send their clothes to get washed because we were responsible for that, providing them with the equipment. So I spent the entire day pretty much shadowing this person, and she became my mentor. Like I was in awe. Like I had sat with operations, I had sat with everyone, but with this particular person, there was just a sense of connection. Really, there was. And so we created a friendship over the years. And then I would see her and she would specifically ask for me. And it was when I was requested, believe it or not, and to bring in my faith in this, I had applied to go to Guatemala and I never received the email for it. And something told me, not something, that little voice in your head was like, check your spam. And sure enough, when I checked my spam, I saw that I was chosen to go to Guatemala with a task force of medical personnel and run their logistics for this task force. Well, I took a screenshot of it and I posted it at that time on my Facebook page. And I had the director of operations for this NGO say, I was wondering when you were going to accept that invitation. I'm like, it was in my spam. And I have a habit of clicking empty spam quite often because I'm that person that I don't like to see those numbers. I just don't want to see them, because I feel I have to pay attention to them. I feel like I have to address it. And of course, spam is exactly that. It's just a rabbit hole to just nonsense, as I call it. And so that was my first international deployment. And I had the greatest opportunity. And I'm telling you, God, I could go on after this conversation. I really did. And he just moved. He really worked through me. And I'm sorry I get emotional, but it's such joy to be able to do something for communities that don't have those resources. And so I worked alongside the United States Navy. I was the spokesperson for this NGO during my time in Guatemala because I am very fluent in Spanish. It's my second language. And I had the opportunity to even translate during a American Red Cross fire department training that we were providing the local.
Wow.
Awesome. And that alone was like, oh my gosh. And so I was so blessed to have
Yes.
2 weeks and really get to do what I love to do. And I learned so much from my mentor, and I learned so much of how I was designed to serve in
Yeah.
whatever
Mhm.
capacity that may be.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Whatever capacity that I believe the Lord has spoken to me is where I will go. I have tried to do things on my own. Believe me,
Mhm.
we've all done that. And I see I see the disasterness that
Yes.
happens in my life, the chaos.
Yes.
And so that was one of my greatest experiences.
Yeah.
And then a week later, I was in Puerto Rico with
Yeah.
after Hurricane Irma and Maria, doing the same exact thing, working in
Yeah.
areas of, everyone thinks of San Juan, everyone thinks of Dallas, but no one thinks about the surrounding areas of people who just don't have the resources to really protect themselves from elements, from disasters, man-made or natural. And
Yes.
so my primary focus, the reason, with the NGO, was to always really focus in those areas of vulnerability.
Yes.
Vulnerability.
And we've been
I
talking a lot about diversity here. I know Larissa said to me today, I'm so glad you have her coming on. And I think you said that because you going there and being able to translate in Spanish for them, meaning they clearly didn't have enough people to be able to do that, was very much needed. And if you were not there, then how would that have gone over in terms of just general communication?
Yes.
We're talking about everything else. And I think with Good Morning Gorgeous, we've been talking a lot about the women that we bring on, very specific women that we want to bring on, and what does that picture look like? And we've been very blessed. We've had a lot of African-American women that have come on here. You are our first woman of color that isn't African-American to come on a podcast, but we're working to opening those doors and bridging those gaps. That's what we want to have here. And I think you said it's so great when you mentioned, I was able to go and I had to translate. It goes to show how much everything that we do, we have to diversify it.
Yes.
And sometimes you can make true impact without the inclusion of everyone. All demographics, all walks of life to be included in the conversations that we have.
Yes.
That much more important. So, I'm grateful that you're here. And I know we're talking a lot about emergency response, but of course I had to throw that little piece in there.
Thank you.
Because we really want to be able to, even in just the work that we're planning with this podcast and beyond, is how do we make sure we create impact for all women and all families?
Yes.
And that's what we want to do more here. So yeah, I'm just excited that you're on.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, Aurora, I'm a crier like you, but I want to say this to you. When you sent me the pictures, I was like, wait a minute, is that the same woman? Because it was like your hair was so long, and I love the salt and pepper. You see, I'm a salt and pepper. I love my salt and pepper.
Yes.
When I turned 50, I was like, no more hair color, and I let it come in, and it looks wonderful on you. And I love the cut. I love the cut, the haircut. So I was like, which picture should I use? Is her hair long now, or is it short now? So I wasn't really sure. But I want to say this to you because I'm feeling this. I'm an emotional creature. Sharonda can tell you that. But just these few minutes that you've been on the podcast and we're having this conversation, I can truly feel your humbling spirit to the things that you do, and that you are doing it all for the glory of God. So, and I just, I want to say that to you. And I know I might start crying too, but
they'll both start crying if you're listening or watching. They both have their Kleenex. They'll both start crying. Yeah. And I'll be the only one sitting here without my tear. I always tell people, don't make me cry because I'm a thug. That's my thing.
I love it.
I'm a thug. I'm not crying. They try to get me to break down, but
I love it. I love it.
But I want to say, and I really, really mean that within this short span,
Yeah.
and you're talking and being able to feel that. So, you know, during this conversation, I want to ask you, what prompted you to draw into the field that you're in? What prompted you to do that?
So I'm a Hurricane Andrew survivor from 1992. I had just graduated high school that summer, and that August of 1992, Hurricane Andrew came through Miami, Florida. My family and I were really blessed that we really didn't have much damage, but I saw the devastation that happened in Florida City, which was maybe an hour drive from where I lived. They were completely devastated. It was almost like a bomb had gone off. Not one house survived. And most of that happened because of the construction practices during that time. After 1992, when Florida realized that there was a situation, building codes became very assertive, very aggressive. I always had that heart to serve, like I said, in any capacity whatsoever. I mean, I would clean toilets for someone if they can't bend over or do it themselves. That's just my nature. And it was when I wanted to go into the military. My parents, your typical Cuban parents, were like, no. I wanted to become a firefighter. I wanted to become a police officer. I wanted to do something of civic duty to my community, whether it's where I live or not. So it always stuck with me. I had jobs here and there. And it was when I worked at Baptist Hospital in South Florida that I was okay working what I was doing. But it wasn't fulfilling for me. It was literally a paycheck. That's what that was for me. It was a living wage to survive with my children. And when I went to Hurricane Harvey in Houston, I came back and I could not even speak of what I saw. They would ask me and I would just break down and cry. And in one of the homes that we were working on, I found a tiny little Matchbox car. So imagine being a child that age with those kinds of little toys, and you have a Category 4, almost 5 hurricane about to barrel down your home. What do you tell a child of that age? Grab what you can. We've got to go. And so when I came back, that impact of seeing something so little but so significant to me as a mother, I prayed for 3 months. God put me in the most uncomfortable situation because I felt that I was becoming complacent. And God's like, negative. That's not happening to you. You're called for a bigger purpose.
Amen.
I was in a very nice office. I have my privacy. I'm very private. I'm introverted at many times. And they made me, it wasn't my choice. They made me report to a manager that I was like, and I still use this to this day as an example of what I felt. It was like I was given a box of nails, carpentry nails, and I had to chew them and swallow them. That's how I felt. And my spirit was so stirred. And I'm like, Lord, what are you doing to me? And I sat at church that night. We were in the process of setting up for Christmas. And I was sitting in the pews in the sanctuary and I was crying. And my pastor comes in and he goes, Aurora, what's wrong? And I said, Pastor, this, and this. And he goes, God will give you what you need. Whatever decision you decide, God will give you what you need. And I said, okay. And one of my sisters in Christ at church, who I never spoke with, her and I would be in passing. I was part of the first time a guest experience as one of the leaders. That's a whole other story. And this woman and I just started talking, and she's like, I think you should go. I think you should pack your things and go where your heart tells you. And I said, wow, okay. And sure enough, I prayed, and it wasn't until January of 2018 that I decided I was not going to renew my lease. I talked to my children. I said, you have an option. You can either go back with your father, live with your dads, or, you know, you could come with me, but I don't know where I'm going, pretty much. My youngest son's father was like, absolutely not. So my youngest decided to stay, but my oldest at the time, who was 19, said, I'm going to go to Kentucky. And I was like, all right, you could go to Kentucky. And during our transit up to Kentucky, a tornado had just hit Jacksonville, Alabama. So what do? I signed up to deploy as I'm driving up with all my stuff that I could fit in my car, because I donated everything else. My furniture, I didn't sell anything. I was like, what I can take in my car, I'm taking. What I can't, I'm donating. And that's what I did. I donated to a very sweet, beautiful Bayesian coworker of mine that, I mean, she's just wonderful. And I served 7 days in Alabama. While my son was coming up to Kentucky and his apartment and stuff. And then that's later on after that, I was on the road for 6 months. I didn't even work. I lived off my savings. I lived off my retirement. And, you know, if I'm gone, I'm gone. Who's gonna reap the benefits of everything that I've done? And so really looking at communities that are not prepared, every deployment I have been on has been in a community where there's no resources, there's no camera crew. I mean, a perfect example is Albany, Georgia. Is that how you pronounce it? Small little city, had the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, and nobody even knew that they needed any help.
Wow.
So those are the things that drive me. Well, let me not say that, because there's another reason for, I don't want to use that word anymore. There's something that led me to this. And it is my way of serving, and it's my way of really doing God's work, where I know that I can see what he's showing me.
Okay.
And Sharonda knows, when I applied for this job with the state, I was working at the college at the time, and I am not a fit for that college because I am not politically correct. I try to change a lot of the things that I say to fit my core values. Like, for example, when someone says, oh, are you a Christian? No, I'm a Christ-like Christian.
All right.
I am a Christ-like Christian, because everyone has doused that word Christianity and Christian, that when they're leaving the parking lot, as one of the pastors that I watch, through the internet says, you're cussing at the person next to you because you're trying to get out of the parking lot before they do.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And so I started to a little bit kind of shift this year. Again, the mindfulness, what's coming out of my mouth and what I'm thinking and what I say, to be more Christ-like, to be more compassionate. And so I just love, as an introvert, but when it comes to something that is life-saving to someone, that is where I feel called the most.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, and I can feel it as you're speaking.
Yeah,
I really can.
And that's when you know where you're supposed to be doing the work that you're supposed to do. Like I share a lot. When I was in 8th grade, we had this little Southern Baptist church in Battle Creek, Michigan, Shiloh Baptist Church. And you know what? On Sundays, you in church all day. And it was an afternoon service. I started at 3:30. It was a guest pastor there, and I don't remember the name. I was only in like 8th grade, but we sang in a choir, and they had us all come down, and he preached. And at the very end, people went up so that he can like anoint them and pray, right? Well, I'm 8th grade. I get in line because everybody else got in line. but he put oil on my head just like this and then said, "You will become the voice for young people."
Wow.
That was when I was in
Mm.
8th grade.
Wow.
And then I thought he meant I had started a breakfast program at church. Like literally, I had a budget. I went shopping. I did breakfast before Sunday
That's so
school,
you.
in between Sunday school and morning worship. Like I did this. I thought that's what he meant. I had no clue the trajectory that my career would take me.
Mhm.
And I have been, I
Yes.
mean, that is exactly what I've done.
Yep.
All of my life, that is exactly what I've done. So like it's like being, in tune with that. And when folks start to speak, it's like, you need to go and look
Yes.
at where it took you and where you are now, right?
Correct.
Hearing you, I go, man, I've had so many instances where that have happened to me. Coming to Kentucky wasn't the first school I came to. I went to school in Rochester Hills, Michigan.
Wow.
And I'll never forget a girl on campus that would do her name was Stephanie. I remember she prayed for me one day and she said, "Have you ever thought that this is not where you're meant to be?"
Yep.
And it wasn't.
Nope.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
So being mindful and paying attention when the spirit is speaking to you or speaking to others for you,
Yes.
and being able to have the discernment to know the difference
Mm-hmm.
is so very important. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll tell you, God did not give me the gift of discernment. I really have to. I'm somewhat compulsive on some things. But I know I kind of started to realize again, when I've designed my own path, it's utter chaos. My finances go down the toilet. I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm distraught, I'm frustrated, my depression kicks in. It's just so much. And so when I decided that I wanted to do what I wanted to do, it took me a lot to get here. And I worked at the Family Dollar here in Richmond, Kentucky for $8.15 an hour before I went to Berea. I experienced my first uncomfortable situation of being Latina, in a certain environment that was so unhealthy that when I woke up every morning, I was like, do I have to do this? Do I have to? But I did. And the reason why is because it became something bigger. I ran the COVID program. I met Sharonda, a sister like her that we just connected so quickly. And her and I had a mutual acquaintance say, "You guys are like soul sisters." And our birthdays are 2 days apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And if I would not have stuck around and I would have given up when I wanted to give up, I would not have this opportunity to share. And I was thinking about it today, this morning. I was like, I wish I could have started recording my life when I knew how to use a recorder. Really.
Yeah.
And
that is so powerful.
That is.
I wish I could start my story way back then. And I have my journals from back before I came to Christ in 2016. I was baptized July 3rd of 2016, and I was baptized with my current name, which is Aurora. And when I look back at my journals, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised of getting to where I am today. My children, my youngest son, I was like, he's so proud of me because this is something that I worked so hard for. And when I was working at the college, I wasn't sure, but I wrote this down and I wanted to share this with you. It says, "You won't always feel ready for what he has called you to do. Just trust that you're equipped."
Wow.
Yes.
And that
Don't
is
always
on,
feel ready. Just trust that you're equipped.
that is on a Post-it. I took down all my posts. I have Post-it notes all over my mirror in my bathroom, and it's specific things that the Lord has spoken to me. For example, Jeremiah 29:11. That is the one piece of advice that the Lord has planted into my soul, that is what I am supposed to do.
Mm.
That is his roadmap for my life. And it doesn't stop here. And so with everything, there's challenges at work. And Sharonda knows. And I prayed and I prayed. I said, Lord, whatever obstacles are in this way of me to be able to accomplish your kingdom here in this branch, please, so it be.
Yeah.
And sure enough, my one little obstacle got transferred to another department.
Won't he do it?
Look, won't he do it? Won't he do it?
And when my boss called me and she said to me, I know you're going to take joy in this news that I'm about to give you, but you cannot share it with anyone until it comes out publicly. I said, okay. She said, so-and-so has left and put in his time, and he's going to. I said, oh my goodness, I am rejoicing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know much scripture as far as memory wise, because my memory is just terrible when it comes to certain things. And unfortunately, I don't have that gift yet. And it was pretty much what was meant to harm me. It's like, no, it's not happening. No.
Yes.
I know who I am, and I know whose I am.
Yes.
And I know that no matter what comes, I have been able to just finally flow in my position at work, just flow and make the necessary recommendation and changes to a state department to better fit us for these kinds of responses. I mean, I was on call just Wednesday night till about a little after 1 a.m. when those storms were coming through Western Kentucky. I would have never thought in a million years that I would be able to do something like that. I needed a new car, right, Sharonda? I was like, okay, I'm going to save up for a down payment on my car, and then I'll get my car. Well, guess what? God provided. I was deployed to Hurricane Ian in Miami, Florida. And what I have never seen in my entire life, I've never made this much financially in a month, let alone in 2 weeks. And there was my down payment for my vehicle.
Look at God.
He will provide
all the time. Yes,
every
he will.
single time.
And people want to say, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, my sister's Jewish by conversion. And when she told me that she converted to Judaism, I looked at her and I said, Mary, how can you denounce Christ? How can you? We grew up pretty much Baptist, and then I went to Catholics. I did my first communion in my confirmation. I said, how can you denounce who Christ is in our lives? Oh, he was a carpenter. He was a regular man like anybody else. I said, bite your tongue. And I'm not one to think of, sir, I don't believe in coincidences. Everything is written before my first step is all. Everything is written before my first step I take in the morning. My sister, as much, and I love her to death, and I wish I could trade places with her. My sister suffers and battles multiple sclerosis since since 2009. No, I'm sorry. Since 2000, my sister was diagnosed. So it's been 23 years? 23 years. And she has what she believes to, I love her to death. But it's like, Mary, we grew up together. We went to the same churches. How could you? And it's funny because my faith became stronger. I mean, there is nothing. I mean, I was listening to a talk the other day, and this person, because I was dealing with some issues at work with another teammate, and it was stirring up in me, and I started to feel that anxiety, that frustration, the stress, and she said in her talk, she said, Jesus leads, Satan drives us.
Mm-hmm.
And with that drive to want to get things done, that's where your depression, your frustration, your stress, your anxiety. And I said, you know what? I'm hitting my reset button.
Yep, that's right.
I'm hitting that reset button. And so, you know, and I have here also where it says 2 Corinthians 12:9, my grace is all you need and my power works best in your weakness. And so I decided that for myself, I was going to get to that level of weakness, that level of vulnerability, and allow him to just lead me to where I need to go with
That's right.
branch, and to be the voice that a lot of individuals don't have in my branch. And I'm working with one particular person who is pretty much so, I mean, my success is going to be her success. When she's successful and able to voice her opinions and give her recommendations, then I know that I'm successful.
Yeah. And I think even with you just thinking about how the decisions you make and how that and how you're being led and how that exudes at work, but I think it also exudes in all the areas of your life, which is great. And even today on the podcast, we can clearly hear it and see it in you. And that is why I'm just so grateful that you come on. And we are definitely going to have to find opportunities to bring you back, because I do think I love having these conversations and being able to hear from you. And I'm just grateful that you've come on to share with everyone else today.
Thank you.
And you've shared so many great pieces here. Like, I am so happy, and we're going to find other ways to be able to tap you in to the work that we're doing, and even others who may want to bring you in to talk about emergency response in their areas and how to assist with that. So I'm very, very grateful for you to be here today. But it's time for us to wrap it up. Like, time is up already. Isn't that crazy?
I'm telling you, the day has been flying by today. It really has.
It sure has.
Flying by. I'm not mad about that, but we've had some really great opportunities to talk to some incredible women, and you are just one of those. And I'm so grateful to you for being here today. So as we sign out and close, first, thank all of you for joining in today on Good Morning Gorgeous. As we continue to bring stories and people that can create impact in your life and in your community. But as we like to say, find yourself,
believe in yourself,
and love
yourself.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.